Hi, welcome back to 5.7. This is our second video. We're still talking about system of equations, and this time we're going to talk about how to solve the system of equations by graphing. There's three ways that we can solve a system of equations. The first one is graphing, and if I say that we have to solve it by graphing, that's the only way to get your points on a quiz or test, is to solve it by graphing. Now, how do I solve it by graphing? Remember that a system of equations, to have a solution, it means that this is where it's what these two lines have in common. So I'm going to graph this first one, and then I'm going to graph the second one, and the point they have in common is what will be considered the solution. So let's take this first one here, and our slope of this one's already in y equals mx plus b. Our slope of this one is 2 over 3. And our y-intercept is at 0, -1. Remember, y-intercept is an ordered pair. So I'm going to graph this one. I come over here to 0, -1. I put a point, and then I go up 2 and over to the right in positive directions. So I go up 2 over 3, and then the best that I can, I graph it. All right, so that is that first one there in the red. So I'm going to come over here with blue, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one. This is in the y equals mx plus b. M is -1, because -1x, there's understood to be a -1 there. And my y-intercept is at 0, +4. So I come up here and I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I graph that. And then my slope means, remember I can write this as -1 over 1. So that means I need to go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Oops, that wasn't quite right. Down 1 over 1, and then I draw my line. Now, where they are in common, which is this point right here, we need to test this point. And this point is at 3, 1. That's what I think it is, 3, 1. So I have to test 3, 1. I can't just go by what it looks like there, because my lines might not be meeting up just exactly right. So when we graph it, you always have to test it. So the first thing we're going to do is graph, and then 2, find common point, and 3, test the point. Whenever we graph, we always follow those 3 points. 3 steps. So I'm going to graph these, or not graph them, excuse me, I'm going to test it. I'm going to erase this just so I have room. The first one is 3, 1, so that means 1, does it equal 2 over 3 times 3 minus 1? So this would be 1 equals 2 minus 1, 1 equals 1. Yes, it worked for that one. So I'm going to put a check mark there, and I'm going to erase. If you need more time to look at this, just hit the pause button. Now I'm going to test this one here, which would be 1, does it equal -3 plus 4? And that would be 1 equals 1. Yes. So since it worked for both of these, I know that my solution is going to be 3, 1 is the solution. Now, I hope you can see that this is not the best way to solve a system of equations, because there's too many variables here that we can, or changes. What if we don't graph it right? What if this was a fraction? What if it wasn't a whole number 3, 1? What if it was, 1/3 and 2/3? That would be really hard to be able to pick that out on a graph. So we're not going to do this all the time to graph it, to solve our system of equations. We're going to use one of 2 other different methods. But before I go on with that, I'm going to talk about the different answers. So this is where we could have one solution. I'm going to erase it for a second. Hang on there. So there's the steps right there to how we graph it. And the types of solutions that we have are, 1 is 1 ordered pair. And that's where it looks like this, where we have just 1 point in common. We could have 2, we could have parallel lines. And that means there's no solutions. And they would look like this. Or 3, we have infinite solutions. And that's where they are the same line. This is same line. So that's something that we have to look out for when we're graphing them. So if you graph it and it looks like it's just 1 point, or if it looks like parallel lines, it's going to have that same slope and just different y-intercepts. And then the infinite solutions is where it's the same line. All right, so try those out on graphing, but that's not the go-to method. We're only going to do the graphing method when they tell us we have to solve by graphing. So practice those, and then we're going to move on to the next section here in a second.